Hello everyone, welcome to Intellify. The topic that we are going to study today is growth from class 11th biology chapter plant growth and development. Let's introduce ourselves to this topic. Roots, stem, leaves, flowers, fruits and seeds arise in an orderly manner in plants. The sequence of growth is as follows. Plants complete their vegetative phase to move into reproductive phase in which the flowers and fruits are formed for continuation of life cycle of plant. Development is the sum of two processes, growth and differentiation. Intrinsic and extrinsic factors control the process of growth and development of plants. So this slide or the slide for introduction tells us that all the different parts of a plant, including root, stem, leaves, etc., they grow in specific sequence and in an orderly manner, and the process of development is equal to growth plus differentiation, and both the intrinsic and extrinsic factors are going to control the process of development in plants, and the plants, they complete their vegetative growth before the reproductive growth. Reproductive phase is the one in which flowers and fruits are formed. Next, growth is a permanent or irreversible increase in dry weight, size, mesovolume of cell, organ or organism. It is internal or intrinsic in living beings. In plants, the growth is accomplished by cell division, increase in the cell number, and cell enlargement. So growth is a quantitative phenomena which can be measured in relation to time. Plant growth is generally indeterminate. Now we are going to study certain features of the growth in plants. Plant growth is indeterminate. Plants retain the capacity of unlimited growth throughout their life. This ability is due to the presence of meristems at certain locations in the body. The cells of such meristems have the capacity to divide and self-perpetuate. The product eventually loses the capacity to divide and differentiate. Apical meristems responsible for primary growth of the plants and principally contribute to the elongation of the plants along their axis. The lateral meristems, vascular cambium and cork cambium, appears later and are responsible for the increase in the girth. Now, the cambium is basically responsible for the girth of the plants. Next, we are going to study the growth is measurable. Growth at a cellular level is principally a consequence of increase in the amount of protoplasm. Since increase in protoplasm is difficult to measure directly, one generally measures some quantity which is more or less proportional to it. Growth is therefore measured by a variety of parameters, some of which are increase in fresh weight, dry weight, length, area, volume, and cell number. While the growth of a pollen tube is measured in terms of its length, an increase in the surface area denotes the growth in a dorsoventral leaf. Phases of growth. The period of growth is generally divided into three phases. Very important question, generally asked in exams. What are the phases of growth? Meristem, elongation, and maturation phase. Root apex and shoot apex represent the meristematic phase of the growth. We have already studied meristems are present at certain specific locations in the plants, and these meristems are very much responsible for indefinite, uncontrolled growth. Uncontrolled in terms of that they are going to grow throughout the age. Okay? It is not the tumorous uncontrolled growth. Okay? They are going to grow throughout their age. So, root apex and shoot apex represent the meristematic phase of growth. The cells of this region are rich in protoplasm and possess large conspicuous nuclei. The cell walls are primary in nature, thin and cellulosic with abundant plasmodesmatal connection. The cells proximal to the region are the phase of elongation. Increased vacuolation, cell enlargement, and cell wall deposition are the characteristic of the cells in this phase. Next, phases of growth. Further away from the zone of elongation is the phase of maturation. The cells of this zone attain their maximal size in terms of wall thickening and protoplasmic modifications. Growth rates. We have already studied the characteristics of growth. Growth rates. Growth rate is referred to as the increased growth per unit time. Entities can produce cells in many ways, arithmetic or geometric. Quantitative similarities or differences between growth of living entities can be done in two ways. There's an absolute growth. It is the measurement and comparison of total growth per unit time, and relative growth, growth of given system per unit time. For theoretical questions, difference between two types of growth, absolute growth and relative growth, is a very important question. Arithmetic growth, the rate of growth is constant. An increase in growth occurs in arithmetic progression, 2, then 4, then 6, then 8. It is found in root and shoot elongation. We have a formula for LT is equal to L0 plus RT, that is length after time t is equivalent to length at the beginning plus growth rate into time. A very important formula for arithmetic growth. Simple questions in which 3 of the parameters are given and 4th is asked is very common. Geometric growth. Geometric growth, here initial growth is slow and increase rapidly thereafter, and every cell divides. The daughter cells grow and divide, and the granddaughter cells that result into exponential growth. Geometrical growth is common in unicellular organisms where growing in nutrient-rich medium. When a question between arithmetic and geometric growth is asked, a very important point to mention is geometric growth is common in unicellular organisms where sigmoid growth curve consists of fast dividing exponential phase and stationary phase. It is typical of most living organisms in their natural environment. Exponential growth can be represented as follows. W1 is equal to W0 E. W1 wherein is the final size, W0 is the initial size, R is the growth rate, T is the time of growth, and E is the base of natural logarithms. Quantitative comparison between the growth of living system can be made by measurement and comparison of total growth per unit time is called the absolute rate. The growth of given system per unit time expressed on a common basis is called the relative growth rate. Conditions of growth. Water, oxygen and nutrients are very essential elements for growth. Turgidity of cells helps in extension. Water also provides the medium for enzymatic activities needed for growth. Oxygen helps in releasing metabolic energy essential for growth activities. Nutrients are required by plants for synthesis of protoplasm and act as source of energy. Since we have now studied that the process of development and growth, the process of development involves differentiation and growth, in this PPT we have covered about what all is included in growth. What are the different parameters in growth? In the next very PPT,